Hi friends, so now we will discuss economic survey. Basically in this video we will cover state of economy and fiscal development. So let's begin with the background. In 2020 we know that the world was facing COVID. Due to COVID, government implemented fiscal and monetary expansionary policy simultaneously. Due to fiscal expansionary policy, government increases its expenditure to help the poor and the public, whereas monetary expansionary policy took place to reduce the interest rate. That was done to encourage the loans. Then in 2021, we saw the recovery phase, but we had inflation. We thought that in 2022 the situation will normalize. But there was global slowdown due to Russia-Ukraine war, increase in oil prices, increase in interest rate. That was done to control the inflation. Therefore, in 2023, we saw inflation in the country. Now we will look at the challenges to growth from 2020 to 23. The first challenge is COVID-19. We know how COVID has badly impacted worldwide. There was huge impact on India's trade and export also. Since China is the largest exporter of raw materials to India, India had badly impacted. Production reduced in India, demand for goods and services also reduced due to the pandemic. Second is Russia-Ukraine war. This accelerated the inflation because the prices of oil increased. Third, contractionary monetary policy. This led to increase in interest rate of USA. As a result, there was huge capital outflow from India. This implies the domestic currency of India depreciates. As a result, exports become cheaper and imports become costly. Now, keeping this point in mind, we will discuss balance of payment. What is balance of payment? It records all the transactions of goods and services of the residents of the country with the rest of the world. It has two accounts, capital account, current account. According to the survey, there was surplus in the capital account, whereas deficit in the current account. But the deficit was so huge that it led to BOP deficit, that is overall deficit in the country. Now let us talk about taxes. We all know that there are two types of taxes, direct taxes and indirect taxes. We saw there was economic revival due to increase in the taxes. And basically, there was huge contribution of GST which led to the revenue, which led to the taxes revenue. Now we have an important formula called tax buoyancy. You have to remember this for your exams. This is percentage change in tax revenue divided by percentage change in GDP. Now we will talk about the agenda of the economic survey or the government, that is inclusive growth. There were several schemes introduced by the government for inclusivity. First is PM Kisan. According to this scheme, farmers were given rupees 6,000 per year for fertilizers, seeds, water, etc. Second is PM GKAY, that is Prime Minister Grameen Kisan Awas Yojana. According to this, 5 kg per month food grains to poor section of the society was provided. Now we will start fiscal development. In 2023 we saw there was inflation. So government had to face three challenges, that is to reduce the inflation, to increase employment rate, and to increase the GDP. Keeping in mind the budget, we will discover what led to the increment or decrement of the fiscal development. So we all know that budget is divided into revenue budget, capital budget, which is further divided as revenue expenditure, revenue receipt, whereas capital is further divided as capital expenditure, capital receipt. You have to remember that revenue expenditure has reduced whereas capital expenditure has increased. Revenue expenditure reduced mainly because subsidies were reduced. Now if we look at revenue receipts includes taxes and non-taxes. Overall taxes were increased whereas non-taxes reduced. We can see in the text that all the components of non-taxes reduced, therefore non-taxes reduced. Whereas in the taxes, we have direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes increased and indirect taxes also increased, except the excise duty. This point is must to remember that excise duty reduced. Now let us talk about the capital receipts. Capital receipt is further divided into debt creating capital receipts which further increased, whereas non-debt capital receipts reduced. Now we have some important formulas for the exams which includes budget deficit, that is total expenditure minus total revenue. Revenue deficit is equals to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. Effective revenue deficit equals to revenue deficit minus grants from the capital assets. Fiscal deficit, it is the total expenditure minus non-debt revenue capital receipts. Then primary deficit is the fiscal deficit minus the interest payment. Thank you. I hope you liked the video. Now in the next video, I'll make sure that we complete the budget survey with the remaining 3 chapters. Thank you.